Holy is the ultimate gamer. He's earned that name.
Holyone.
A great guy, and his videos are fantastic.
What's to do, YouTube? It's Holyone, and these are going to be the top 10 best games of 2020. At number 10, we have Streets of Rage 4, probably one of the best beat-em-up fighting games I've played in a very long time. Though I haven't played many of the Streets of Rage games, this game itself was really good. The art style is great, the OST is really good. I beat the game on the highest difficulty with the fighting mechanics is really good. I played a couple of matches with some friends. Just overall, like the certain areas on the maps when you're at the dojo and you're unlocking new weapons to use on enemies. All sorts of great stuff. So there's different stages, just so much fun here. Definitely check this game out. It's on Xbox Game Pass. You guys can play it that way. Or if you want, you can get the game for like $23 on sale. It's a really good sequel to the Streets of Rage games. At number 9, we have Serious Sam 4, the long-awaited sequel to Serious Sam 3. I have waited to play this game on PC for quite a long time since I played the original Serious Sam game. This game has a ton of graphical options on PC. It is a PC exclusive, of course. It has some really good, like, draw distance visual, a ton of enemies on screen to the point where my 3080 was chugging. Has some great gunplay. Plenty of customization with different weapons. Just, it's basically, if you like Doom and you're a fan of Serious Sam, just beating balls to the walls of enemies with guns, combat. The story itself is okay, but it's nothing to write home about. But overall, what gets me in this game is just the straight gameplay. You could probably beat it in about 8 to 10 hours if you're playing on the higher difficulties. There's plenty of like Easter eggs and other things from the previous games. But overall, Serious Sam 4 is definitely worth checking out. Currently, I think it's on sale right now for Steam on the winter sale, so definitely check out Serious Sam 4. At number 8, we have Death and Request 2. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of the first game, but I always give a sequel a second chance because Death and Request 2 is a great sequel to the first game. However, it takes place in like a different after story with a different character and cast. I won't spoil too much of the game for you, but the combat is still the same as the first game with its uniqueness of tossing enemies around the map, having them bounce off each other to cause additional damage. The story is basically you and a bunch of orphans in this church that you have to survive in, and at night there's these creatures that come out, which are linked to like the cyber world from the first game, and your whole objective is to find out why are people dying and why are these bad things happening. Overall, the visuals are alright. You can get this game on PS4 and PC. If you guys are fans of like turn-based JRPGs and tactical moving games like this, I could definitely highly recommend it. You can get it on sale right now. It's definitely worth checking out. So, even if you haven't played the first game, this game kind of has its own separate story. And I cannot recommend enough Death and Request 2. At number 7, we have Crash 4, It's About Time. And it's not going to be a list without me having to put a Crash game on this list, as I'm a huge Crash Bandicoot fan of the originals and the remastered. So, this game takes a twist after the third game, so it's literally getting rid of all the canon games, like Warped and all them games, and basically making its own story, a sequel. The story itself is kind of short and not as detailed as the original games. However, the gameplay in this game is as good as the originals. It keeps true to the platforming, which is great. The OST can be a little annoying at times, but I never found it bothersome. The overall cast is the same with a couple old characters. You get to play as like Cortex, the alligator guy, and some other characters in the game. And the art style with me is just fine. I have no problem with the art style and all that sort of thing. Certain levels can get annoying, but that's just the difficulty of a Crash game. I can't recommend this game enough. Definitely check out Crash 4 on pretty much any system. And at number 6, we have Last of Us 2. Yes, one of the most supposed controversial games of this year. Now, why The Last of Us is so, midway on my list is Last of Us 2, we'll go over the good stuff. It has amazing visuals. Obviously, it's Naughty Dog. They're great for their visual designs. The gameplay is top-notch. The gunplay is improved from the first game. The OST in the game is really good. I definitely liked OST in the game. The story is mid. It's definitely on the low point. I'd say it's at least a 6 because of certain aspects. Not that it's the revenge story that I care about, but what it is they don't wrap up things good together with other characters. Certain things don't make sense. Overall, the story is to me, it felt rushed. They didn't really do it right. They didn't really give a backstory to why Ellie has these immunities and that sort of thing. But overall, it's a good PlayStation exclusive if you guys want to check it out for the gameplay alone. But if you have no interest in this Last of Us story at all, even from the first game, then you could skip this game entirely. At number 5, we have Ghostrunner, which is a hack-and-slash platforming game, and the game is very hard. Now, when it comes to visuals, I would recommend playing this on PC for the best, and if you guys have, like, an RTX card, turning on ray tracing with, like, DLSS makes the game look buttery crisp, since it's a game that mostly takes place indoors. However, there is a huge performance loss, and I prefer to have played this game at, like, above 120 frames per second, because it is a very fast-paced game. The game can be completed within 4 to 6 hours on the first playthrough. That's how I beat it. I played it on the hardest difficulty, despite how difficult it was. There's certain aspects to the game where the platforming gets more difficult, whether you're using a lasso, whip, your character's whooping across the map. You can customize your character's innate abilities to make him warp slower, attack faster. You can equip certain mods to your character through a circuit system. And overall, it is a really good hack and slash game, and you could get it on sale for like probably under $20. So yeah, if you guys are a huge fan of the cyberpunk-like games and you don't like cyberpunk because of all the bugs and issues it's been having, I can't recommend Ghostrunner enough. It's definitely worth picking up if you like a challenging platforming hack and slash game. At number 4 on my list, we have Sakura, Rice and Ruin. Now, this game was a sleeper hit for me because I looked at it and I said, it was interesting when I saw it a couple years ago, but I was unsure because the whole idea of this game is it's a side-scrolling hack and slasher. However, it's a game where you're simulating rice and you're growing rice as like a rice simulator. And then they add all that in with a unique story to the game. So, this game can be completed within, let's say, 20 to 30 hours. That's the average, I'd say, for beating this. And they blend in the rice growing with the story, because as you're growing the rice, you got to feed your people who are with you in this island where you're having to go around the island fighting demons and collecting resources so you survive the next night. You grow the rice in order to get better upgrades, different abilities. Your character has different attacks, whether it's hack and slash or you're using your garb in order to grab enemies and daze them and cause different abilities. The gameplay is really good. I definitely rank that as itself. And I didn't think the game would be as long as it is. And once you get used to growing the crops and you're getting better as you do it, it really adds a different taste of flavor to the game. And the story overall is all right. It's nothing different, but it's definitely a decent story to the game overall, and it helps progress the reason why you're growing the rice, and your character is either a rice grower and a fighter. So overall, it's a great game, and I definitely recommend you guys checking out Sakura, Rice, and Ruin. And at number 3, we have Ori and the Will of the Wisp. And my god, this game visually is incredible. Everything is like a washed on paint on screen. It is literally art with how much layers of detail are in the background, especially after I played it at 4K and 120 FPS on my PC. Just seeing all the detail on display here is incredible, and the amount of work they put into this game was great. So, enough with the visuals. I'm sure you guys want to hear about the gameplay. The gameplay is significantly improved over the first game. There's new weapons you can equip now, new mechanics to the game. The game is much larger in aspect compared to the first game. They've added a lot of new content, and the story can be tear-wrenching because, you know, it's a story of, you know, you're with the owl child again, and you're flying to this unknown place, and Ori has to save her, and that's his whole objective. I won't spoil too much, but each environment has its own uniqueness to it, and if you guys are a huge fan of Metroidvania games like myself, definitely check out Ori and the Will of the Wisp. It's one of the best indie games that came out this year. And at number 2, we of course have Doom Eternal. I was a huge fan of Doom 2016, but I definitely wanted them to improve the game overall, and Doom Eternal delivers that. Not only are the graphical features and graphics overhauled completely, but the game is great, high-octane, first-person shooter action. They've added uniqueness to the enemies now, including some new enemies where you have to use certain weapons to beat them. So you can't just use, like, the shotgun to beat the entire game. You have to actually use strategy while you're running around shooting a bunch of enemies and targets. They added a new enemy called the Marauder, who's kind of annoying, but he is beatable. They did release the first expansion, which is the Gods of Old, which is alright, but it is a very difficult expansion. So if you guys Don't want a difficult expansion, especially with the Marauders. They spam those guys in that expansion pretty bad. But overall, the story is nothing amazing, but the bosses and the gameplay alone make this game glorious to play. And watching all the gore on screen happening, it is probably one of the best visual games that have come out in 2020. And at number 1, and my game of the year for 2020 is Yakuza Like a Dragon. Now, I've always been a huge Yakuza fan, but they never could live up to my game of the year. However, they took a genre like a beat 'em up and turned it into a turn-based RPG gameplay mechanics, and they delivered it flawlessly. Not only is there a ton of variety in attacks you can build with your characters, whether one's like a spellcaster or something, but the game even makes fun of itself, saying it's trying to be like Dragon Quest, which isn't a bad thing at all. When it comes to the visuals, the game does look visually good. The gameplay itself is really good itself. As I said, it's turn-based. You can build up your characters. The story is really good. You can beat the game within 30 to 40 hours. I beat it in about 41 hours, so maybe 40 to 50, depending on if you're trying to do all the side missions and all that sort of thing. The story is definitely interesting. It takes place after Yakuza 5, so there's like the post-story. You get to run into some old characters. I won't spoil it, obviously. But you're playing as your own character, trying to build him up, and he's basically like, he's basically trying to represent himself. Ichiban Kasuga is trying to represent himself as like, I've served the clan, I'm a noble guy. And then there's a lot of plot holes, seeing a lot of things and everything coming together at the end, just like a Yakuza story. So I can't recommend this game enough, guys. If you are a fan of the Yakuza series and like turn-based games, or even if you don't play the Yakuza games and just like turn-based games, definitely check out Yakuza Like a Dragon. It is my game of the year. And so that wraps up my top 10 games of the year, guys. Let me know what yours are in the comment section below. This is your boy Holyone. Ouch!